Good afternoon and welcome to our July 12th, 2022 special board business meeting. This is an abbreviated meeting held for the purpose of making personnel appointments and voting on one consent item. Welcome to our board members, MCPS staff, and members of our community who are joining us here today, and to those who are watching this meeting via live stream on the MCPS website and MCPS TV. Now let us begin the meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic on which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call the roll to recognize board members to establish that we have a quorum. And I'm going to start with our newest board member. Welcome, Mr. Kim.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Ms. Harris.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Ms. Mandrowski.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Silvestri.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Daka.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Mrs. Evans.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Joftis.
Good afternoon.
We'd also like to welcome to the table Mr. Stockton, our new Chief of Staff for Dr. McKnight. Okay, now we can begin the meeting with the approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
All in favor, raise your hand. And Shebra, that is unanimous, thank you. Okay, so we will begin with Dr. McKnight.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, President Wolf. So today we move forward a number of recommended appointments. I see that we do have a full house. I'd like to welcome everyone, and we have almost 20 appointments. So we will take our time and go through them so that we can spend the time to honor everyone that's being brought forward today. Our first appointment we bring forward is Mr. Brian M. Hall as Chief Operating Officer. Mr. Hull brings to MCPS more than 15 years of experience as a teacher, administrator, and most recently as Executive Director of Finance. Mr. Hull looks forward to joining MCPS as the Chief Operating Officer and supporting district operations, finance, and human resources.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, and that is unanimous.
Thank you. Our next appointment moving forward is Dr. Patrick K. Murphy as Deputy Superintendent. Dr. Murphy brings to Montgomery County Public Schools more than 34 years of experience as a teacher, principal, district leader, and most recently as Superintendent of Berkeley County Public Schools in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Dr. Murphy looks forward to joining the MCPS team and making a difference in the lives of all students, families, staff, and MCPS community. He would like to thank his parents who instilled in him the value of education and taught him how to invest in others to help them realize their dreams and potential.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, and that is unanimous.
Next, we bring forward Ms. Ann M. Dardarian as Consulting Principal in the Department of Professional Growth Systems in the Office of Human Resources and Development. Ms. Dardarian would like to thank her father, who is watching online, for his continuous encouragement, the MCAP team and members of MCAP and MCBOA for being wonderful colleagues and for their support. Ms. Dardarian has been employed with MCPS for 28 years as a teacher, staff development teacher, assistant principal, principal intern, principal, and most recently as liaison for MCPS Professional Growth Systems, MCAP. Ms. Dardarian looks forward to continuing to work with the Department of Professional Growth Systems to provide job-embedded coaching and professional development to principals and other administrators.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we bring forward Mr. Gregory C. Mullenholz as Director of School Support and Wellbeing in the Office of School Support and Wellbeing. Mr. Mullenholtz has been employed with MCPS for 20 years as a teacher, staff development teacher, mathematics content coach, assistant principal, principal intern, and most recently as principal at Ashburton Elementary School. Mr. Mullenholtz looks forward to joining the Office of School Support and Wellbeing to support schools in MCPS with our work around anti-racism and equitable teaching and learning. Watching from home are his wife, Kristen, and his children, Lily and Lucas.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. And that is unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we have Mrs. Kelly J. Giron as supervisor in the Department of Special Education Services, in the Office of Special Education, in the Office of the Chief Academic Officer. Joining her today is her son, James Giron. Ms. Giron has been employed with MCPS for 19 years as a special education teacher, staff development teacher, resource teacher, elementary curriculum specialist, and most recently as instructional specialist in the Department of Special Education Services. Mrs. Giron looks forward to continuing her work supporting students, families, and schools as a supervisor in the Department of Special Education.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Next, we have Mrs. Laura S. Johnson as supervisor in the Department of Special Education Services, in the Office of Special Education, in the Office of the Chief Academic Officer. Joining her today is her husband, Andrew Johnson. Mrs. Johnson has been employed with MCPS for 14 years as a special education teacher, resource teacher, instructional specialist, and most recently as assistant principal at Watkins Mill High School. Mrs. Johnson looks forward to joining the Department of Special Education Services to support schools, families, and students receiving special education services.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Next, we bring forward Mrs. Kia Middleton Murphy as supervisor in the Department of Special Education Services, in the Office of Special Education, in the Office of the Chief Academic Officer. Mrs. Middleton Murphy is joined by her eldest son, Clenny Murphy, fourth. Her husband, sons, parents, and siblings all are watching online. Mrs. Middleton Murphy has been employed with MCPS for 21 years as a special education teacher, resource teacher, instructional specialist, assistant to the associate superintendent, supervisor, assistant principal, and most recently as acting supervisor in the Department of Special Education Services. Mrs. Middleton Murphy looks forward to serving and supporting students, families, and schools.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Cynthia M. Webb as supervisor in the Department of Special Education Services, in the Office of Special Education, the Office of the Chief Academic Officer. Dr. Webb has been employed with MCPS for 30 years as a special education teacher, reading teacher, resource program teacher, student support specialist, instructional specialist, supervisor, and most recently as assistant principal at Albert Einstein High School. Dr. Webb looks forward to returning to the Department of Special Education Services to provide direct support to schools and families.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Can you bring up Shebra? She said, okay. All in favor, raise your hand. That's everybody here at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we are bringing forward Mr. Douglas E. Nelson as principal of Thomas S. Wheaton High School. Mr. Nelson is joined by his friend and colleague, Karen Rosemeyer. A family shout out to his mom, dad, twin brother, and sister who are watching live from Pennsylvania. Mr. Nelson has been employed with MCPS for 20 years as an English teacher, resource teacher, staff development specialist, magnet coordinator, and most recently as assistant principal at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. Mr. Nelson is very excited to serve as principal at Thomas S. Wheaton High School, and he looks forward to engaging with the student, staff, and community members.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. And that is everyone present.
Next, we have Ms. Stephanie P. Valentine as principal of Springbrook High School. Joining her today is her daughter, Mia Valentine, her mother-in-law, Laverne Watkins, and her sister, Nicole Morgan. Watching online is her cousin, Adrian Bolden. Mrs. Valentine has been employed with MCPS for 24 years as a teacher, counselor, assistant principal, principal intern, and most recently as acting principal at Springbrook High School. Mrs. Valentine looks forward to continuing her work at Springbrook High School in supporting the district's strategic priorities and in partnering with the Springbrook staff to foster learning opportunities that allow students to follow their curiosity beyond the textbook, grapple with questions for which there are not prescribed answers, and develop adept communication and lifelong leadership skills.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Next, we bring forward Ms. Sapna Hopkins as principal of Tilden Middle School. Ms. Hopkins is joined by her parents from India and her husband. She would like to thank her parents, husband, and 2 sons for all of their love and support. Ms. Hopkins has been employed with MCPS for 17 years as a mathematics teacher, resource teacher, assistant school administrator, assistant principal, principal intern, and currently assistant principal at Odessa Shannon Middle School. Ms. Hopkins looks forward to joining Tilden Middle School and supporting the community.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we bring forward Mrs. Lisa N. Shorts as principal of Eastern Middle School. Mrs. Shorts is joined today by her son, Stephen Shorts, a student at James Herbert Blake High School, and her aunt and uncle, Annette and Howard Terrell of DeSoto, Texas. Her mother, Karen Cromwell, along with the rest of her supportive family and friend network, are joining online. Mrs. Shorts has been employed with MCPS for 16 years as an English resource teacher, assistant principal, principal intern, acting principal, and most recently as assistant principal at Argyle Middle School. Mrs. Shorts looks forward to joining the Eastern Middle School community, building strong relationships, supporting efforts to foster students and staff well-being, and expanding academic excellence opportunities for all students.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we are moving forward Mr. Pedro R. Cedino as principal of Captain James E. Daly Elementary School. Joining him today is his wife, Lorena, and also a special shout out to his children, Noah, Aiden, Liam, and Sebastian. Mr. Cedino brings to MCPS more than 24 years of experience as a paraprofessional, social studies teacher, assistant principal, and most recently as principal. Mr. Cedino looks forward to joining MCPS and supporting the Daly Elementary School community.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we bring forward Ms. Nora E. Collins as principal of Wheaton Woods Elementary School. Joining her today are her 2 sons, Sebastian Stiles and Frank Isaac, and colleagues Kavina Griffin and Desmond Mackle. Shout out to so many of her family members and friends who have supported her through her journey. She is very proud to stand here as a result of their support and encouragement. Ms. Collins has been employed with MCPS for 25 years as a teacher, team leader, staff development teacher, assistant principal, principal intern, and currently assistant principal at Wheaton Woods Elementary School. Ms. Collins looks forward to continuing the work and supporting the Wheaton Woods community.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Jennifer Taylor Cox as principal of Forest Knolls Elementary School. Joining her today are her husband, Donald Cox, and her mother, Sandy Taylor. Shout-outs to her children and grandchildren. Dr. Taylor Cox has been employed with MCPS for 35 years as a classroom teacher, focus teacher, math content coach, assistant principal, principal intern, and currently assistant principal at Beale Elementary School. Dr. Taylor Cox is excited to join the Forest Knolls Elementary School community.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we bring forward Mrs. Maureen C. Turner as principal of Luxmanor Elementary School. To celebrate with her today is her husband, Justin Turner, and her children, Graham and Claire Turner, who both attend elementary school in MCPS. Mrs. Turner is thankful to have the support of her family, her parents, James and Deborah Brown, as well as her husband's parents, Chip and Charlene Turner, who are all here today. Mrs. Turner has been employed with MCPS for 19 years as a teacher, staff development teacher, assistant principal, and most recently as acting principal at Somerset Elementary School. Mrs. Turner looks forward to joining the Luxmanor community as their principal.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we move forward Mr. Christopher A. Wynn as principal of Cedar Grove Elementary School. Mr. Wynn is supported by his wife, Melanie Wynn, who is joining him today. Mr. Wynn has been employed with MCPS for 21 years as an assistant principal and most recently as principal of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School. Mr. Wynn looks forward to joining the Cedar Grove Elementary School community by honoring their traditions and embracing innovation in the spirit of collaboration and building positive community relationships.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we bring forward Mrs. Hannah Yim as principal of Highland View Elementary School. Joining her today is her husband, Samuel Yim, Jeff Klein, principal of Oakview Elementary School, and Loretta Woods, principal of Whetstone Elementary School. Mrs. Yim has been employed with MCPS for 10 years as a teacher, assistant principal, and most recently as principal intern at Oakview Elementary School. Mrs. Yim looks forward to joining the Highland View community to support all of the students and help them reach their highest potential.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
Okay. And our final appointment, if I am not missing anyone in the room, is Miss Abby L. Brandt, being brought forward as principal for Stephen Knolls School. Joining her today is her spouse, Derek Brandt. Mrs. Brandt brings to MCPS more than 12 years of experience as a teacher, administrator of academic and transitional services, consultant, assistant principal, and most recently as principal. Ms. Brandt looks forward to joining MCPS and supporting the Stephen Knolls community.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous.
I just want to take a moment to thank and congratulate everyone and to thank all of the families who are here today. It's always so nice that you are coming and reading the remarks and hearing the support that's provided for the work that we do as educators. It just means a lot to even read it. So thank you so much for being here and congratulations again to everyone.
We'll give them a minute. We're now up to item 4. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? If not, Rebecca?
I had a question about pre-existing conditions.
Sure. Go ahead.
Just, are they covered? Will they be covered? I'm sorry, pre-existing conditions. I was just verifying whether or not they would be covered.
You come down to the table.
Hi, sorry, Rick Johnstone. MCPS has not had pre-existing conditions for many years, so that's not an issue for our programs.
Are there any other questions? Can I get a motion to move the item?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you, Rebecca. Did you have any more questions? No. Okay, that's everyone except for Ms. Mandrowski. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
That I'll second.
All in favor, raise your hand. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.